What's up, guys? Welcome to the Saturday show. Of course, on Saturdays, I like to go back through the week of Newswave, kind of go over everything just in case you missed a day, and I get to look at your comments and kind of respond and talk about the different things that we went over throughout the week. It was a pretty packed week, actually. Had a lot of stuff, some controversy, some announcements, so it should be a pretty good time, I think. Now, first, we're going to jump into some quick news. We did get a release date for Travis Strikes Again, the No More Heroes game that's being developed currently for the Switch that's supposed to incorporate indie games. It looks like it's going to be kind of a spin-off, a smaller game. It's not really a full-fledged No More Heroes game. It's kind of an offshoot almost, but we at least know when we can expect it, and it's not in 2018. Remember, we originally thought it was going to be a 2018 game. It's actually falling into January. It's coming out January 18th. 2019. So yes, it's missing this entire holiday, and it's going to come out in January. January's starting to get kind of packed, actually. Remember, we already have Kingdom Hearts and Resident Evil 2 remake in that month, and then here comes Travis Strikes Again. All right, we'll be picking up there, I guess. But it's kind of a shame to see it kind of fall to 2018, I guess, or 2019. I guess it was getting kind of packed in 2018. Maybe it just wasn't ready. But that also removes a game that a lot of us figured would be there for 2018. That's one we keep thinking that's going to be there, and now it's not. So now we have to think about what else Nintendo would be doing to kind of fill in any other spots throughout the holiday outside of Smash or Mario Party, which we kind of know New Super Mario Bros. Probably is going to show up in 2018. It'll probably be a release for them to put there, and then more than likely a Direct is going to be happening in the next few weeks here, and will probably give us more titles on top of that. So we'll see what they have, but for now, just know No More Heroes or Travis Strikes Again. It's actually falling into January for 2019. And with that, guys, let's jump into the week, starting with Monday. We talked about Spider-Man and how long it takes to beat the game. Insomniac answered several questions, with one asking how long it takes to make a run through Spider-Man, with their answer being 20 hours. Of course, this is for a straight-up run-through of the storyline. It could be longer with side missions and exploration. Drew says, open-world games like Spider-Man are different for playtimes. I'll spend hours just web-slinging around the city exploring. Games like Skyrim and Breath of the Wild, I'll put hundreds of hours into exploring. I envision Spider-Man having the same kind of exploration. Yeah, like, you could finish technically Breath of the Wild pretty quick, right? You can finish that in hours, you know, maybe a couple hours, because you can run straight to the final boss. I guess if you're skilled enough at the game, I guess you can beat it pretty quick. Skyrim isn't even really as long as you hear people spend hundreds of hours in Skyrim. The game actually is not that long. You can beat it in probably a few weeks or so, 20 to 30 hours, I believe you can power through that if you're just playing the storyline and doing a few quests here and there. But people spend hundreds of hours in Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind because there's a lot of stuff to do outside of that. I kind of picture that being how Spider-Man is going to be. Maybe not to the degree that something like Skyrim or Oblivion or Morrowind would be, but definitely more than 20 hours. If the storyline is only 20 hours and there's a lot of extra stuff outside of that in the city, and then of course DLC is coming, I think this is going to be a bit longer than that. And I think it's gonna be pretty good. The thing is, I haven't played it yet, and we'll see. But 20 hours for the main storyline, I would say probably double that, and that'll be how much you get out of the side missions and the extra collectibles. And then, of course, if you just spend time just swinging around and stuff, maybe you get top 50 hours, we'll see. Tuesday, we took a look at a new Smash Bros. Edition Switch Pro controller that was announced at a price of $75. It has been popping up and selling out on a bunch of different sites, so finding one on release day could end up being an issue. Cyberpunk 2077 also had a large gameplay reveal showing an impressive run-through of nearly 45 minutes. Molten Lava Gaming says they should bring back the Wavebird controllers for Smash release. Love that controller. I really like the Wavebird as well. It's wireless, but I don't think that's an issue. I know a lot of the hardcore players for Smash just want all wired, so they have zero chance of any kind of latency for anything. But I'm not going to play it that way. I like the convenience of wireless. I mentioned at one point when we talked about this during the week that they're going to bring a Pro controller, but a lot of people will use the GameCube controllers. But I do think there's going to be a place for the Pro controller, since there's a lot of people like me who would play it casually and not to a degree where I'm counting frames or doing all this crazy stuff. You just want to play the game for fun. The convenience of a Pro controller or wireless controller would be greatly appreciated. And Wavebirds, I think, are iconic enough to where people would recognize if they brought it back. Sure, we have that little adapter that you plug your GameCube controllers in already, but if they release Wavebirds that you don't need to plug it in, it syncs up like a Pro controller does, that would be really cool. I would like to see that, but that could also be held off if we ever see GameCube Virtual Console as like an accessory that they release kind of alongside that announcement, as like, hey, you can get GameCube controllers on your Switch Pro 2 or however long it's going to be for. It might be a while for GameCube before getting started with NES, but then they can be like, oh yeah, we're reviving the Wavebird, and we're bringing it back under that name. They could be like Wavebird controller and everything, GameCube looking at it. That would be so cool. So if they do that, it probably won't be for Smash. It would probably be for, I guess, GameCube Virtual Console, but I'm completely on board with that idea. On Wednesday, we talked about a large indie showcase that Nintendo held, showing off a bunch of smaller indie games that would be heading to the Switch. While none of the games were really shocking to see, the presentation seemed to kickstart a conversation about too many indie games finding their way to the system. Alex says, if some people loudly complaining about X, Y, and Z weren't shown is a backlash, then every direct showcase for the Switch has had a backlash. Remember when people were complaining about the E3 presentation was garbage because it focused too much on Smash, and then Switch sales spiked immediately afterwards? So you're always going to get, it doesn't seem to matter. If Nintendo puts out any kind of presentation, it gets backlash. We even saw it with even Sony's E3 thing got backlash because of how it was run. It was run kind of poorly, as people had to move between tents, and it was very disjointed, and you had like this musical performance that felt out of place. People find stuff to pick out that they don't like, and then they do find stuff to pick out that they do like, but I do think that E3 presentation had a bit too much Smash, considering that we had a whole nother Direct after that. Sure, Smash fans were happy, but yeah, I get that at least. I would have been more interested to see more of like Daemon X Machina, maybe 5 minutes pulled from Smash and put to that. Just as an example, right? But you're right, people are going to find stuff to complain about for all this stuff or criticize. I mean, no presentation is perfect, so you're going to get that. But this was a little different because it felt like people were just not excited about the idea of all of these indie games coming, not necessarily the presentation itself, but just the fact that the Switch is getting pummeled with indie games, and we're still kind of waiting on the next big, I guess, first-party release from Nintendo. And they keep saying they have more 2018 games to tell us about, and it's September, and the year ends in December, so there's not a lot of time there. So yeah, they need to get on it. They need to get a Direct going. Remember, last year we had that Direct. They announced Doom, and then that came out in November. So you could see another big third-party game. You could see a first-party game and some other even, like, not really big budget games, but some smaller games from third parties as well show up. It should be kind of interesting, I think, to see how people would take to a September Direct that everyone believes is coming up. We'll see how that one goes over. Thursday, we took a look at the Media Crate sales charts that showed the Switch outselling the PS4 version of One's Justice during its release week. This is the first time we have seen the Switch outright outsell a bigger Japanese game in Japan, showing that the install base for the Switch is starting to make it the biggest system in Japan for developers. Prince Revolver says, I'm hoping the Switch gets more JRPGs. When it does, my PS4 will be a dust collector. Well, the PS4 is still getting games like we've seen Spiderman and Last of Us, and Dragon Quest XI is going there first, and I'm picking that up next week, so there you go. I'll be picking that up. I'll probably check it out on the Switch as well, because it'll be interesting to see it kind of a transition over to the Switch and see how that goes and everything. But the PS4 is going to continue getting JRPGs alongside the Switch, just because it also has an install base in Japan that's over 7 million, so yeah, you're going to do that. And then of course it has a very large install base in America and then in Europe as well. Obviously the PS4 is going to get all of the games because of its install base. The Switch is going to start getting probably every, or at least almost every JRPG now, if they can make everything work out. Like a Final Fantasy 15, that's tough because that Luminous engine already has a hard time on the Xbox One and the PS4, and they're trying to move to the Switch, a proprietary engine they've used for one game so far. That one is a little harder, but like something like a Code Vein, that's probably going to come over to the Switch. So don't be surprised if all of these JRPGs show up, and if you like JRPGs at this point, you should probably be picking up a Switch, because I think it could even get games that the PS4 won't get, as we saw with something like Grandia 1 and 2 HD. I don't think that's going to be an outlier. I think you're going to see that a lot, because some of these smaller developers, they're going to have to pick what system they want to put it to. And seeing as how the Switch is now starting to outsell the PS4 in Japan when it comes to game sales at a retail level, yeah, you're gonna see that happen. They're gonna have to pick one. They'll probably pick the Switch, and the Switch install size will probably pass the PS4 at the end of this year with Smash and Pokemon pushing it forward. Finally, on Friday, we went over the big controversy surrounding the graphics in Spider-Man. Gamers online who obtained a copy of the game early did comparisons with gameplay from E3, found differences in lighting in different scenes. This has led to the internet arguing if there has been a downgrade to the visuals, with Insomniac chiming in to deny that idea completely. King Johnny says, LOL 60 for a 20-hour game. Get better deal with the Xenoblade DLC. I guess that's really kind of opinion based. Like I said, I think Spider-Man, some people might just play around in Spider-Man and have a great fun factor just in playing around with it, and might find themselves 50, 60 hours in, still working through the story just because they're just exploring and just having fun that way. I mean, really, I guess, I think Dragon Quest XI is going to be, what, 70 or 80 hours or so. It's a long game. That might be the best value proposition next week, really, if you look at it. But Spider-Man just looks like fun. I like Spider-Man. I like the movies. I like the character. And yeah, I'm jumping in there. Also, because it says 20 hours for the storyline, doesn't mean that the game itself is going to be 20 hours, we talked about previously, with side missions and probably collectibles. This is Insomniac. There'll probably be collectibles and stuff everywhere. So I'm expecting it to take much longer if you want 100% the game. But a 20-hour playthrough of the story is actually pretty good value for just the storyline being that long. Nox says, I remember Killzone 2 being the absolute worst at showing off gameplay. That wasn't actually gameplay. I forgot about this. That is probably the best when it comes to misrepresenting your game or downgrading it, since that wasn't gameplay, you're right. And what's really funny is there was that story, I remember I talked about this like a year ago. It was a long time ago, but that the developers behind it at the time who were working on it, remember seeing that presentation, and when it showed up that it was gameplay, they apparently freaked out. They're all sitting on the couch watching. They freaked out. They're like, that's not gameplay. And Sony's representing it as gameplay. But yeah, that was, I think a lot of people looked at that and said, this isn't gameplay, right? No? I mean, it says it's gameplay, but this can't be gameplay. I feel like that was pushing it too far to where people immediately wrote it off. Whereas like Spider-Man's it's a more subtle change, right? The lighting, the water is that's much more subtle than that Killzone that trailer. But that's really funny to look back on now. If the developers were screaming at their TV because they didn't even know what was going to happen, oh man, that's got to be tough, because at that point it looks like the developers are trying to deceive the customer base when Sony for some reason put that subtext, that subtitle down there, gameplay. It's such a weird situation. That's probably the worst one, though. You're right. Gundam Guy says, seriously, you guys care more about the visuals than the actual game? Really? So I think this is what's happening. People want to play Spider-Man, but we're about a week out still, so everyone's looking for something to talk about. Some people got it early. Reviewers can't talk about this game till September 4th, so we're waiting on their impressions. There's this weird gap where we're just looking for anything to talk about. I think a lot of people really latched onto this. It exploded because it seems almost like people are believing, obviously, the developers like Insomniac are trying to get over on them, and they downgraded it to put it out at a stable frame rate or whatnot. Who knows? But we haven't played the game. I haven't played the game yet. There's a good chance I boot it up and I'm playing. I'm like, wow, this game looks really, really good, and I completely forget about that E3 presentation. I guess there's also a chance that some people do remember that E3 presentation very well, and they play it and they go, wait a minute, where'd all the water go? Where's the lighting? It's gonna be interesting. That's why I think this is such a big deal right now, is because there is this week-long gap right now where we're just waiting to play the game, and there's not much to do when it comes to Spider-Man. We're just waiting. So this is, I guess, the next thing to talk about. And of course, the internet, controversy and the internet mix very well. It explodes online, and here we are. So we'll see. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to buy the game. Spider-Man's going to sell well, so there's going to be a lot of people checking this game out. So I'm sure you'll see plenty of graphical comparisons on either side, where people are saying this game looks amazing, and then people are saying, you know, what happened to all the water? Why are there no puddles here? I'm just kidding. More about the lighting and everything. But we'll see how that all turns out. One thing's for sure, I'm gonna get the game and I'm gonna play it. I'll see if it's fun, and that's kind of where I'll go from there. Is the game fun? And then I'll go start looking for puddles. And guys, that's where we're gonna leave the Saturday show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the like button if you liked it, dislike it if not. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it is the Travis Strikes Again being technically delayed until 2019. Not that long, though, less than 3 weeks out from 2018, but still, it's a little later than we thought. We kind of thought it was going to show up in October maybe, or just somewhere in 2018. Not this time though, we'll have to wait a bit longer. Also about the Spider-Man controversy, let me know what your, I guess what you think the most deceptive, I guess, downgrade was from an E3 or when a game was shown prior. I heard Watch Dogs, for example. I thought Halo 2. Let me know about that down below as well, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Again, we'll have Spawncast tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you guys come on by, and I'll see you then.